Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Alison Cray, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Corporal Brimley Smythe. We are honoured to acknowledge Admiral Scott Swift, Commander, United States Pacific Fleet. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of the ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and the Terry Hills Public School from New South Wales. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record that they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. Boys and girls, please be seated. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Trooper Stanley Patrick Birmingham. Stanley Birmingham was born in 1888 in Sydney, New South Wales, to Patrick and Margaret Birmingham. He grew up in Parramatta and attended the local Marist Brothers School. At the time the First World War began, Birmingham was working as a clerk. He enlisted on the 4th of March 1915, and after initial training was allotted to the 3rd Reinforcements to the 12th Light Horse Regiment. Birmingham left Sydney with other reinforcements on the 9th of August aboard the transport ship Runic, bound for Egypt. After further training in Egypt, he was sent to Gallipoli at the beginning of November, where he joined A Squadron of the 12th Light Horse Regiment, which had been detached for duty with the 1st Light Horse Regiment. With the onset of winter, Birmingham developed influenza, and he was evacuated to Lemnos in mid-December. The Australians withdrew from Gallipoli a week later, and Birmingham soon returned to Egypt. In late February, the squadrons of the 12th Light Horse were brought back together. Birmingham was sent to the 2nd Light Horse Training Regiment before being hospitalised with mumps a few weeks later, returning to training in May. In July, Birmingham was seconded for duty with the 2nd Light Horse Brigade at Romani, the last ground attack on Suez Canal. He returned to the 12th Light Horse in September and was involved in a number of patrols into the Sinai Desert. On 14 February 1917, Birmingham was recorded as being absent without leave for the first time. After being sent back to camp by the military police, he was charged and fined 1 day's pay, confined to barracks for 2 days, and had all leave stopped for 30 days. This sentence would not prevent him from further excursions, however. In April, the 12th Light Horse moved into Palestine and took part in the Second Battle of Gaza. The battle ended in failure, and one of Birmingham's closest friends was killed. On the 31st of October, Birmingham took part in the now legendary attack on the town of Beersheba. Late in the day, with the situation deteriorating, the 4th and 12th Light Horse Regiments attacked Beersheba at the gallop, capturing the town shortly after. In late November, when the 12th Light Horse was in the vicinity of Durham, Birmingham was again absent without leave. Leaving his column, he rode into town where he assaulted a number of local inhabitants. Then, in early December, he was found drunk while on duty near the town. He was court-martialed and in early January 1918 was sentenced to 6 months incarceration with hard labour. During his incarceration, he wrote to the parents of his friend who had been killed at Gaza to tell them how their son, who had been listed amongst the missing, had died. He continued to correspond with them, sending further information and a photograph in which their son appeared. At the end of June, his sentence complete, Birmingham returned to his unit, which was in a defensive position in the Jordan Valley. The regiment moved to new positions at Lud in August, and the following month advanced to Damascus. The 12th Light Horse Regiment was one of the first Australian units to enter the ancient city on the 1st of October, but Birmingham was not present, having been hospitalised a few days earlier. He returned to the regiment a week later, and a period of guard duty followed. In mid-October, Birmingham again went absent without leave and was again punished. Towards the end of the month, malaria had begun to take its toll on the men of the 12th Light Horse Regiment. Birmingham was admitted to the English hospital in Damascus on the 22nd of October, dangerously ill with malignant malaria. His condition deteriorated and he died 3 days later. He was laid to rest in the Damascus cemetery the same afternoon. He was 31 years old. After hearing of Birmingham's death, the sister of his fallen comrade wrote to Margaret Birmingham, "All my family had kindly thoughts of your son. After my brother was killed in Gaza, your son was good enough to write us. He must have been a good-hearted and generously disposed boy. His name is listed on the roll of honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Trooper Stanley Patrick Birmingham, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reciting of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.